Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Solus Orbis Development Series. Before I hop into the meat of the video, I'd like to give a little background on what Solus Orbis is and my inspiration for these videos. So Solus Orbis is basically a website builder, but it's catering specifically to role players. It's meant to be totally customizable and available to build whatever you would like to fit what you're looking for. My inspiration for these videos came from what game developers often do. They release clips and behind-the-scenes snippets for their audience, and I thought, hey, this might be a great way to build interest and keep people engaged throughout the development process. Today's episode is going to be on forum templates. So I'm going to give you kind of a first look at what the base template will be when you create your site and what you'll probably see just on the main Solus Orbis forums as well. So let's take a peek at what you'll be seeing. Here's the general layout. Everything that you see here can be completely customized. You're provided with some base styles by default that contain columns and some margin and padding elements. However, you can remove all that if you want. As I mentioned before, this system is meant to be completely customizable. Now let's hop into what the code itself actually looks like, and I'll get into a little more detail of some of the repeating variables that you'll see. Here's your first peek at the code. Your base template will come with as many HTML elements as I can squeeze in. I wanted to do this in order to help code readability and was finding myself frustrated with endless div tags. Again, you don't have to keep those. The only values that cannot be changed will often be in curly braces or brackets. Let's break down what you see here. Curly braces will often be used to denote a for each loop or if statement. Values within brackets following an if or for each loop statement indicate to the code, hey, this is the data I'm looking for from the database. Specific to forums, there is a forum variable. This calls a second template section, which some of you may already be accustomed to happening. The purpose of this is to prevent too much code clutter and allow for easier updating of repeated sections. Now let's pop into what the forum/forum row template looks like. Again, you'll see if statements and for each loops, as well as a variety of other variables indicated. I'm going to go through a kind of side-by-side view here so that you can see some of the variables and how they relate to the code. So the ID here is looking for the forum ID itself, and what it will do is it will actually return a relative URL for the forum and its ID. So that way you don't have to have two separate variables for calling the full URL and including the name. You have complete control. This calls for the name, as you can see right here, the description. Then we start this secondary if statement here for subforums. What this is saying is if you have subforums, then you want to have this starter code before it starts looping, and then it will loop through them and get you the name and the ID for people to have access to. Then we have topics, which returns the count, posts, which returns the replies number. This might change to replies to be a little more consistent. I'm not too sure yet. And as a kind of disclaimer, some of this may change a little by the time of beta and production. Here we have your last post information, which is your last poster, the last topic that was updated, all available and all completely customizable. So what I'd like to say here too is that in the non-paid version, in the default version, free version, whatever you want to call it, you will have access to all of your user variables here. So if you have a custom field and you want to use not the avatar, but the GIF, you have that flexibility. It would look something along the lines of if user.custom.gif, then it would say this, and you could do that. You would also be able to say, and if that doesn't exist, use the default value here. Again, that kind of format may change as time goes on, but it's something along those lines. I'd also like to point out that the avatar here, if a user doesn't have one, you have the flexibility to define a default avatar in your site settings, and that will automatically fall back here. And anytime you use the avatar, it will always go back to the default URL you set. You can also change the date format here on the right-hand side. That will come by default from your site settings. And also the time will adjust based on the user's time zone, or if you're just a guest, it will be the default board time zone. So that about wraps up our development series, our first series here, first episode, however we want to go. And if you see anything that you'd like more explanation on, or if you think it might be better named, better written, or whatever you see that you think is a little confusing, just let me know. I'm here to build this for you guys, and whatever looks too complicated or doesn't make sense and needs to be remedied. And of course, there will be more flexibility of that if you're involved in beta. And if you'd like to be a part of beta, just join the Discord to stay tuned for updates and when that's going to be happening. Thank you guys so much, and I hope this was helpful.